And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. There's a lot of videos I always think about making, a lot of videos I end up not making. And I think one of the videos I always try my very best to stay away from are videos that I think I might be inadvertently like hyping products or causing FOMO or just more or less doing like that egregious sin that a lot of YouTubers do, which is just in a way like shill different products. And when it comes to the Chinese market, I've always like kind of left breadcrumbs in my videos. And if you guys are not new to this channel, if this is not the first video you've ever watched, you've probably heard me talking about the Chinese market like more or less in passing. I would, drop hints for different products, but I gave into FOMO, and it's something I never do. And when we talk about FOMO, mainly when we talk about FOMO on this channel, or most people talk about FOMO in Pokemon, they talk about like going right in with the most modern product, whether that is English, whether it is Japanese, and just kind of buying in. And I FOMO'd into a Chinese product. Now, like I said, I didn't want to make this video, but it is something I want to start talking about more and more. And I honestly don't know a way to talk about like sets I'm buying, new emerging markets. I don't know how to talk about these emerging markets or places where I see opportunities without inadvertently shilling those markets. So I'm going to have to just accept it and admit that that is definitely can be a cause and effect for these type of videos, that I might inadvertently shill markets. Now, don't get me wrong. I have no delusions of grandeur whatsoever, thinking that this is some massive channel that is going to sway markets like with this crazy amount. No, I don't think that. But I do think that there is a chance that once you start to highlight stuff or start to bring people's attentions to product that maybe they, one, were not familiar with, or two, didn't even know existed, it is a possibility that people will start to have the same feelings that I have about these products. And when I say I FOMO'd into a product is very recently, Pokemon in China for standard Chinese, they came out with a new Marnie collection box. And it's like the Marnie Determination box. That's the name of it. And it came out on June 18th. And I was very well aware of that product. I was like, okay, I know the release date. I know when it's coming out. It MSRP'd for like 618 yen, which works out to be like $87. And I'm okay. Once this product hits the market, I'm going to be able to just quickly buy up a lot of this stuff and create like a little position. Because right now I've been trying to create little positions in Chinese product. One of the products I went after really big was like the Lillie collection box. And that's what this box is. So this box MSRP'd in China for like 1,111 yen, which works out to be like 157 USD, which $157 is a pretty lot of money when you think about it for like a just Pokemon product in general. And the reason why that set is going crazy right now is because there's a Lillie full art card in there. But I went really hard into it. And I hadn't gone really hard into a product since the stamp box promos. And that was a Japanese release. I had the Pikachu, I had the Cramorant, and I went really hard into those. And then I went really hard into the Lillie collection boxes. And I went so hard into these products that I am right now like tapped out. I have no more like funds available. I have not been this illiquid in this hobby in a very long time, meaning all my liquid funds are more or less dried up. Like there's a little bit here and there, but it's nowhere where I want to be. I always, when it comes to liquidity in this market, ideally want to be 5 figures plus. So 5 figures plus is 10,000 plus. Now, this doesn't mean I went and drained my wife's bank account or our joint account or stuff like this. It's not like this. I definitely have like my fun money in this hobby, which is my Pokemon available spending money. And it's that money that I've been trying my best to save up. So when the good buys make themselves apparent, I can do that. And man, I found myself so stretched out when it comes to those Lillie boxes. Like way, way too stretched out than I probably want to be. And I say probably, I mean definitely. But the problem is I'm looking at where I bought those boxes at to where those prices are right now. And I'm just watching like, in a way, like disgusting parabolic growth. And the reason why I went after that was pretty simple. it had a Lillie full art card in it. And I looked at what is the Lillie full art card in the Japanese doing. I looked at what the Lillie full art card in the English version was doing. And I just took a big gamble. And it's not a gamble I ever recommend people taking. But man, I FOMO'd in. And the thing, and I mean this is where I'm going to get really, really truthful for everybody out there watching this. I have never been so scared of a product in my life. And the reason why I say that is because I'm FOMOing into a release that I don't really understand. And what I mean by that is I don't really understand the release is I do not know how many of these boxes exist, how many will exist, or if they will get reprints. And that to me, it maybe doesn't keep me up at night, but my God, I think about it all the time. And at least for the Japanese stamped boxes and stuff like this, I was pretty confident that, it was still the Japanese post office. There's no way they were going to recreate a bunch of these products. And for the Lillie full art box or the Lillie full art boxes, the rumblings I was hearing, which again, when I hear rumblings about a market, I am so removed from that market that everything I hear is secondhand. And what I heard about those Lillie collection boxes where people were standing in line, some people were standing in line for greater than 6 hours waiting to pick up those boxes. And then the same thing with these Marnie boxes, the Marnie collection boxes, all these were limits of one. And from my understanding, the lines in order to acquire these products were hours long, meaning people were standing in line for 5, 6, 7 hours to pick up these products. And I love the thought of that because I'm saying, what is a new emerging market like? If there's that much demand, how much of this trickles through? My God, I would tell you, don't always do like what I do unless you are very, very understanding of the risk. And I think that is the biggest thing that I am dealing with right now is the risk of these products. And yes, those Lillie full art boxes, I've done extremely well in a certain amount of time. And I struggle with how much of it is luck versus how much of it was recognizing a good product in an emerging market versus, and I have not, and you can look at the prices of those Lillie boxes. Look at what they've done since their release. And you can say oh, PK's hyping this product, PK's shilling this product. This is the first video I've really made talking about these buys. I've talked about them in passing, and you have to make it 45 minutes, an hour into some of these lives to even hear me mention these products. So it's not like I was sitting there overly shilling them. And I look at these products and there's so many risks that go through these. And even the Marnie product, I acquired it. I acquired it at a price that I am not comfortable acquiring positions in. That Marnie, like I told you, came out on June 18th. We are only on June 24th. We are, 6 days removed from the release of that product? You know what price I have to pay on the secondary market? $399.99 and $19.99 shipping. And I left the links to these products down in the description below. They are affiliate links because I've seen, and the reason why I did that is because I did see people buying those Marnie boxes at $4.99. And they're still available on eBay for $399.99. Now, the seller that I bought it from only has 2 left. And then the Lillie collection box, I'm not really sure what he's got left. But the price he's selling those Lillie collection boxes, I'm going to warn you guys all right now. If you do click on any of those links, or if you do think about buying any of these products, I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. The prices that those boxes are currently selling at are way, way more than I bought those at. And this is from the same exact seller. So take that with a grain of salt. And I'm going to put this out there. I've never done affiliate links in the past. And I want to make it very clear to everybody. If you get burned on products or that's on you. Do all your homework, do all your due diligence before you buy any of this stuff. But this is the problem. And this is the hardest problem I'm running into. And this is where is the most dangerous things that I will say on this channel. I still see amazing opportunities opportunities in those products. Meaning, if I had $1,000 to burn, I would definitely pick up one Lillie collection box, Chinese Lillie collection box, and I would definitely pick up one Marnie collection box right now with $1,000. And the scariest thing about saying that is one of those products, $157 MSRP. One of those boxes is $87. So what is that, $230? Is it worth it to spend $1,000 on two products that are potential candidates for reprints? I have no clue, again, what Chinese reprints could look like. I'm taking some guesses. I would call them educated guesses, but I don't want to call anything about the Chinese market and about the speculation that I'm doing educated, because they're not educated. They're speculative. They're the definition of speculative. The way I'm looking at some of these releases is, and I'm taking a lot of liberties with the way my thought process is, but this is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time, and I was afraid that there would be pushback and heat for making this video, but I'm just going to put out my thought process. One, all this Chinese product right now is being printed by, the Japanese printing companies, the same Japanese printing companies that are printing all this Japanese product. Right now, the Japanese market is hemorrhaging for product. So I do not believe that there can be that much printer allocation assigned to these Chinese products and continuing to take all these allocations away from all the Japanese demand that there is. You got, Japanese 151 set, there's a lot of demand going on for that printer allocation in Japan. And we've seen what, the press releases from Pokemon Japan and Pokemon International pretty much saying, and especially the Pokemon Japan, they apologize to all their customers saying, we're sorry that we're not giving you guys enough product. We're going to do our best to print more. And it's only because of that I keep going back to, will these products in China be limited products? Meaning, will Pokemon Japan go back and reprint these Chinese products? And then I look at, what is the Chinese Pokemon's model right now? Their model is to catch up to where Japanese is right now and to catch up to where English is right now. So in order to catch up to Japanese and English, they're doing a very, very warp speed type printing, meaning they're going through Sun and Moon and everything in between. So all Sun and Moon sets, specialty sets, Hidden Fates, stuff like this. Then they have to work their way through all of Sword and Shield till eventually they're going to catch up to where we are currently at Scarlet and Violet. And wherever that timeline runs, eventually releases for Japan, North America, and China, eventually all those releases will tie in and be very similar and all be releasing at the same time. It's just they're having to play catch up. And because they decided to go back, and you look at some of these tag team sets and stuff that they're printing, and I look at these collection boxes and I keep asking myself, do these have high likelihoods of reprints? And right now, I keep going to no. This is very dangerous. This is one of those videos that could age absolutely terribly. I never try to make these videos. I never try to make videos where I talk about products selling at, so, those Lillie boxes were, I think they're at $6.99 right now. A little bit ago, they were at $5.99. A little bit before those, $4.99. And I will tell you, a lot of this Chinese product, I've had a lot of canceled orders for a ton of different products. In fact, I have never in my entire life buying products on eBay have had so many canceled orders, especially because I was buying a lot of these orders in bulk, meaning quantities greater than 1, greater than 2, and products and prices kept going up so fast that I would have my money tied up in a lot of these. I wouldn't call them pre-orders because they weren't pre-orders. This product was already released. My money was tied up in all these products, and then eventually they didn't get sent to me. And, is the most bullshit eBay standard answers something wrong with the shipper's address, something wrong with something's wrong with the buyer's address, something wrong with the buyer's payment method. These very, very, they piss you off when you get them. I almost never get those type of, responses and canceled orders. And I got so many for all these products. And it's just been a constant nightmare for me for the last month of just canceled order, canceled order, canceled order. And the problem is I was having these orders canceled, and some of my price points, especially for those Lillie boxes, like right real early at the beginning, I was like, oh, these are fantastic. Some of them I was like, maybe they're too good to be true. And some of them went through. Some of them were great. But man, like the people that had huge quantities kept getting orders canceled. And then by the time I was going back and reordering these, some of these collection boxes, I was paying $100 more. $100 more is a lot of money on a super, super speculative play that I know, like, no real true information. And there's a lot of reasons why I held off on making these videos, because I do believe that there is a group of people out there who might just say, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy up a couple of these, because right now the depth of this market on eBay is so shallow. There is not a lot of these available at, relatively lower prices, and relatively lower prices is super subjective because they're changing day to day. You just look at recent sold auctions. You go back and you watch the auctions, and you go back in time and you just watch gradual price increases week after week after week, and then you scroll back to the beginning and you go, oh my God, like look at all these buys and look at all these price increases to where we are today. And the problem is with the market right now is how shallow it is. The links that I have down below are the Marnie collection boxes for $3.99. Like, there's not a lot of those boxes available for $3.99. That was like one of the very few sellers who had quantities of greater than like one. Very few. And then the same thing with the Lillie boxes. And the Lillie boxes, I'm looking at like once that $6.99 prices get eaten up, then it's going to start to be like in the 700s, then the 800s and the thousands. And this is not where I'm comfortable. We are far removed out of PK's comfort zone. This is not my comfort zone. And I was on a live yesterday, and this topic came up. And I talked about this as this topic and this market right now has not been fun for me. And very, 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 very few times in recent or like memory that I can think of where this hobby stopped being fun for me. Trying to play this super, super speculative game that I'm playing and being so stretched out. I am not comfortable right now. And I mean, comfortable is subjective. Like, the products are doing fantastic like that. This box is one of those boxes that from the time it was shipped to me to the time it arrived at my doorstep, like 18 days later, it had increased like $200 in value for some of these boxes. And it's like, scary, but not comfortable, but like happy, comfortable. I do get very scared about what reprints for stuff like this can look like, because I just don't. I have no gauge of that market. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. That's my gauge of the market. Everything I am hearing, like I mentioned earlier in this video, it's all just secondhand. There is a chance that people are not waiting in line for 5, 6, 7 hours in order to just get limits of one for these products. I find that unlikely, but this is a problem too, is the demand in China for a lot of this product does appear to be very strong. And if that is true, and the things that I'm hearing about these long waits, these people standing in line, whether it's in the rain or not or whatever, if this demand is strong, maybe way, way more of these boxes exist than I actually know, or, people are leading on for this. And the reason why I say maybe way more of these boxes exist is pretty simple. That it costs a lot of money for some of these Chinese sellers to ship over to the United States, and maybe just a lot of these people sitting on these boxes in China are just not playing in that game of selling out of China. And if that's the case, maybe way more of these boxes actually exist. And if that's the case, what if there's somebody acquiring massive positions of these boxes and their price points are that MSRP price point, that 157, or for the Marnie collection box at 87 USD, so like 618 yen, or for the Lillie box 1,111 yen. Like, what if these guys are actually acquiring huge positions? What if this market is being so well manipulated from people that I don't know are manipulating this market? But the problem is, I really looked at the market really hard, and one, the buyer pool currently doesn't seem super strong for English. It seems pretty weak, meaning the amount of sales that are happening are few and far between. But at the same time, the price points for some of these products are so astronomically high right out the gate that that could also be like a cause and effect. And when Jake and Dan were on my live, which is crazy to think about, if you go back, and I'm sure you can look on my channel and just go back. It was a couple lives ago, maybe like a week or two ago. During that live with Jake and Dan, I brought up that Lillie Box. And at the time, that day, those Lillie Boxes were selling for $499. Fast forward to recording this video, they are now selling for $699. That is a huge gain in not a long time. These run-ups, these gains, I don't foresee these being sustainable in the very short or long term. You know, you can't have a product go up $100 a week to infinity. It's just not possible. I am very, very overly optimistic, overly like pessimistic, overly speculative, over just you name it. I am so many things like wrapped into one. And one of the reasons I do this YouTube channel is I try to talk to you guys about the things that I think about and the things that are bothering me. And this has been looming over my head for a very, very long time now. I don't know. I keep going back to maybe this video shouldn't exist. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this stuff. Maybe. It's been bothering me. It's been bothering me for a while. Yeah. It's got me pretty, in a way, rattled Pokemon, but I'm rattled from all this. Yeah, I'm not usually at a loss of words. Usually on this channel, I'm pretty good at just ranting into a microphone, ranting into a camera, but I am at a loss for words for what's going on right now. And some of the plays I'm doing, it goes against everything that I always recommend for people to do. Don't FOMO into products. Don't do stupid buys. Don't get caught up. All I've been doing recently, and it's not just on these collection boxes, it's the singles, it's everything. I am leading myself down the road, and at the end of that road, I'm just afraid there is a brick wall, and I'm just got my foot on the gas pedal, and the RPMs are just going higher and higher and higher until eventually I just feel like at this point I'm just redlining it, and my foot has just got that gas pedal pinned, and I'm just watching that brick wall. It was, when I first started this, it was 10 miles away, and then it was 9 miles away, and right now I feel like that brick wall is just 3/4 of a mile, a half mile away, and I'm just still got that car. Those RPMs are just redlining it right now, and I think I gotta take my foot off the gas a little bit. But man, it's been so hard watching what's going on. You will always be rewarded until you're not rewarded. And that's a problem we're running into with Pokemon right now. Pokemon is just this thing that just rewards you. That I could buy a modern product, and the 18 days that something takes to ship to me could go up hundreds of dollars in the mail. And then it's not even just this. It's all the booster boxes. It's all the tag team sets. It's all that, It's the pull rates. It's, 25 card packs and tag team cards and Sun and Moon full art cards and it doesn't seem to be that overprinted, but I don't know the market. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, I am talking in such an irrational way, and I'm doing plays in such a irrational way. And it's been the best though. That's It's like you feel like you're like an adrenaline drunk, like you're adrenaline junkie drunk in a way, you know? Like, like even this Marnie collection box, like the fact that I just acquired it, at $3.99, $399 for a product that released 6 days ago. 6 days ago, that cost $87 MSRP. 6 days later, I'm picking it up for 400, not including the 19.99 for shipping. Oh, am I just? It's like, is this the beginning of the end? And I talked about this on other lives, and I've talked about this in other conversations. We are just over and over and over, constantly pushing that barrier. And that barrier I talk about, that barrier is this Pokemon hobby. What can this hobby absorb? What, and we're constantly playing this dangerous game of the buyer pool and the demand. How much can we bend, and how much can we bend this hobby until eventually you bend and break anything enough? It's just going to snap on you. It's just going to snap. And pieces are going to go everywhere, and it's just going to shatter. I I don't know. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know how to like tie this up. I guess the question would be, am I upset that I've done any of these buys? I'm not upset, because obviously, like, the proof's in the pudding in a way, right? Like, you can go back and you can look at these products. I mean, the Marnie boxes, obviously you can't. That product is way too new, and you could still pick it up for $3.99 at the time recording this video. But you look at those Lillie boxes and you go, how can you make that much money on a super modern product in this short amount of time? You look at English and you say, what is the best performing booster box of Sword and Shield? That's an easy one. The best performing booster box of Sword and Shield is Evolving Skies, hands down. Did we see prices of Evolving Skies booster boxes go from $95 to $500 in the matter of 6 months? You know, those Lillie boxes were released in November. So 8 months. So they were released in November of 2022. Here we are in June of 2023. That is 8 months later. That is a box that's MSRP for $157, and it's sitting at $699. And then we got these Marnie boxes that were released 6 days ago for $87 MSRP, and now they're selling for $399. And then I wouldn't be surprised if those, sale, or those boxes at $399 till eventually that market dries up, and then you start to see prices of $450, $499, $500. Do I regret it? I don't regret it. I think I need to relax a little bit. You only get rewarded in this hobby so much until eventually this ride will come to an end. I do believe that. I do honestly believe this ride will come to an end. I do believe this market, this hype, this train eventually is going to come to an end. It's going to be a sad day when that happens, but I almost want to stop being rewarded in a way. I want to be able to stop. This is what in a way true addiction must feel like to a lot of people. And I'm probably facing that right now. It's just true addiction. I am just addicted to finding the next best thing, that next great play. Like, everybody always talks about it. Always. Like, all the time. I always hear people talk about the next great play, the next big thing, the next big win. And I feel like I've won so big on this. And it just feels so weird. It feels so weird that this is continuing to happen this far into 2023. You go back and you rewind yourself and you think of like that initial Logan Paul hype in October, and then what happened, craziness with Vivid Voltage at the end of 2020, and then what happened with Shining Fates, and it just kept rolling into set after set, release after release, and now it's rolling into new emerging markets. And you look at what the Japanese market was doing to what the Japanese market is doing today, and you look at what the demand was for 151, and you look at the demand for what like the English pre-order hype is and stuff, and you still see ETBs on Pokemon Center being bought out. And I'm hearing stories about these Chinese boxes and people standing in line 5, 6, 7 hours in order to get purchase limits of one, like quantity limits of one. It's like, can this just keep going on? And like, this is a problem. Is like, I'm speculating, I'm in a way betting, I'm thinking this is going to keep happening. Does it keep happening? Like, if you were in a bubble and this wasn't the top, like, how much higher can it go before that bubble could eventually like burst? And or you just come to that realization of maybe it's not a bubble. And if it is not a bubble, can this happen for perpetuity? Meaning it never ends. Does that mean from now until my last day and your last day? And with modern medicine today, people can live easily into their hundreds right now. Does that mean for the next 60 years that every single set that's ever released, there's people standing in line 5, 6, 7 hours? I'm going to lean towards hell no. Like, no way. But like, that's what it seems like right now. It's 2023. We are 3 years into this crazy, crazy hype that is Pokemon. And keep testing the limits, keep pressing, keep prodding at it, keep poking at this hobby, keep poking at this market and saying, can it take this? Can it take this? And I'm looking at, sales. It's just not all cards are going to go up. Not all sets are going to go up. It's just, can you pick the right one? Like, and what is the reason why? You look at what's going on with, there was a big time where the market definitely moved into just Japanese promo market. And you see what happened with Scream promos. You saw what happened with all these Poncho Pikachus, all these, Poncho Pikachu boxes. When you think of like, maybe not Poncho Pikachu, but you think of like 2016 and you think of like one of the best Japanese products and you think about these Luigi and Mario full art cards and you go, is that stuff repeatable? And then it ends up kind of being repeatable, but now with a new emerging market. It's a good one. This is probably one of my poor lies. I'm sorry. I know usually I try to like be more engaged and like more just, firing stuff into the camera, but this is a live that I've thought about making this video for the last since like really hardcore, been considering making this video since like January, February of this year, to like where I was really, really, really wanting to start to talk about this, like hardcore. And I just kept putting it off and it was in the back of my head. And then till eventually like the Marnie boxes came out and then I was watching what was happening and I was just sitting back and I was waiting. I'm like, the supply's going to be there. The demand will not be there. I will get my buying opportunities, and they just never came. And then you look at what cards are selling, you look at like all this stuff, and then all the news that's been going on. Luckily, there's been some news that like has taken my mind off some of this stuff, like all the CGC news. Like, that was a nice little break. That was a nice relaxing break. It's like, okay, I don't have to think about the Chinese market for a day. I could just focus on something else, and I could focus on the craziness that was CGC. And I was making a bunch of good videos in the past talking about like or fun videos. I talked about 151. I talked about CGC. There was 2 errors I had in both those videos, and I do want to talk about those errors because I don't want to like spread false information. So one of the things I said in the 151 video was I talked about the Japanese market. I talked about those Master Ball reverse hollows. I said I heard that there was those Master Ball hollows were seeded 1 per case, so like 1 per every 12 booster boxes, and I was wrong. It was 1 per booster box. So I do want to put that information out. I don't want to have false information just floating through the internet. So it's 1 per box, not 1 per case. And then the other false information I gave out was for CGC, I thought CGC was getting rid of 9.5s because I thought all the 9.5s are going to 10s, and then the 9.5s are just disappearing, and they were going to have a more similar grading scale, very similar to like PSA. PSA has 8.5, 7.5, 6.5s, but they do not have that 9.5. And CGC did not do that. CGC did the 9.5, and it's a new grade. I struggle really hard to like. CGC could be another rant video, but I'm not going to get into it. But the 9.5s that they currently have go the 10s. The 9s stay the same. The 8.5 stay the same. But now they're creating a new grade that now sits between 9 and 10. But it's not the same as the old 9.5. Is it a new 9.5 with a new... That is dumb. Yeah. But on a non-CGC, like rant, talking about PSA, I got a good live coming up on Thursday of next week. So Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to have Nat Turner on. If you do not know who Nat Turner is the CEO of PSA, or Collectors Universe. So Nat Turner's Collectors Universe runs PSA, Wada Games, like Golden. They got their hands in everything right now, but mainly PSA. And there's a lot of questions we have about PSA recently, and there's a lot of questions I want answered about PSA, and I feel like there is nobody to answer those questions better than the CEO of PSA. So I'm going to be very lucky. He's going to be on this channel Thursday at 3:30. It's going to be a relatively short live. It's probably only going to be between 30 minutes and an hour because, trust me, Nat Turner's time is... First of all, everybody's time in this hobby is super valuable, but Nat Turner's schedule is absolutely insane. So to be able to get him on, we'll be able to ask him a lot of the questions that we're thinking of, Probably we'll ask him a little bit about pack rating. Oh, I kind of want to know about that. But, it'll be tough. I want to try to, get through the introductions relatively quick, too, tell us about yourself, because at this point, everyone should know who PSA is, and then to know the CEO of PSA. It shouldn't have too long, and I want to really, it's going to be tough. It's going to be one of the more challenging lives that I've done as, the host of that live, because I want to get the most information, extracted from that conversation in the shortest amount of time. And you guys are not new to this channel. Right now we're at 38 minutes. This could potentially be longer than that live is if that live only lasts 30 minutes. So within a 30-minute to an hour window, the amount of questions I have versus time is going to be my biggest restraint in that live. So, but there's a lot of questions I want to know. And he is the one person that has all the answers. So that'll be a good one. Let's see. Let's scroll up to the top. We got number 1 mod in the game, Drew. Always good to see you, bud. Son of a Mewtwo said, "You won't catch me buying Chinese product. Not a chance." Son of a Mewtwo, you're probably doing the right thing, man. Don't worry about all the headaches. Speculative, emerging market, unknown supply, unknown true demand. Oh, a lot of unknowns right there. I could be right. I could continue to be right. And if I continue to be right, I don't really know where, a Lillie Box could land. Could a Lillie Box be a greater than $1,000 box in less than a year? We're getting close. We're not there yet. There's still supply on the market. And then the question is, when current supply gets eaten up, how much more supply is going to hit the market? I don't know what the logistics are from pulling these boxes out of China. I do not know what the secondary market in China looks like. My only pulse on the secondary market is North American eBay. That is scary. At least for like Japanese product, the distribution and the product lines and the at least the product chain in order to get that product in hand, it is a way more flushed out system than anything I've seen coming out of China. Like there are people out there who have built relationships with Japanese distributors and stuff, and they're getting cases upon cases of booster boxes, and they built out these really strong relationships. And I've yet to really see that with the Chinese, and that scares me. There's a lot of things that are very nerve-wracking for that. Son of Mewtwo said Chinese cards are not popular outside of China. Well, if this was the Maury Povich show and Maury Povich pulled up current eBay sales, he would say the lie detector determined that was a lie. Because right now it does seem like demand is very high for those cards when you're looking at what recent solds are. So Pokedama said, let's be honest, mainland Chinese girl promo, talking about like waifu promos, are like 1 to 3K and a 10. The products in the box are top tier. The packs are fun. They just go up if you don't open them like any product. Yeah, the problem is like exclusive playmats, exclusive deck boxes. It's the thing is how much weight do people put to some of these like exclusive like products in a set? And I keep going back to like the Team Rockets briefcase and looking at like what was the Team Rockets briefcase. It was just 2 promos. It was that Here Comes Team Rocket card and that Giovanni with the Persian card. But if you look at just the value of that box, like removing those promos out and just looking at what came in that box and the actual Team Rocket briefcase itself, like you can literally remove all the contents of that. Just that box itself is worth a bunch of money. And then you start to look at what all the contents of that box are worth, not including the promos. There's a ton of value there. And then I start to look at some of these more exclusive promos that are coming out, and I'm like, is there chances people are going to want like, you know, these deck boxes and stuff? And the problem is when you start to like start nickel and diamond products and start breaking it down, and then you have to ask yourself, how deep is the buyer pool truly for these exclusive playmats? What is the true buyer pool for these deck boxes and stuff like this? And then it gets even more nerve-wracking, because I bet you that buyer pool is not that strong. Like just like the Team Rocket briefcase, the buyer pool for those promos for those cards is probably relatively deep-ish. But now for the rest of the stuff, it's probably not that deep. Shout out to Professor Oak. Let's see. Pokedama says, saying Chinese cards aren't a long-term play when China is quite literally the biggest whale in the market they enter is wild. I'm not really saying Chinese cards aren't a long-term play. Like, I'm putting my money in these products. So I'm just warning everyone, like, just because I am doing something doesn't mean it's going to pay off. But it's been eating at me. It's just like a little hole. It's just like every day. It's just like that hole. And I'm like, the only way I could help myself is to talk about this stuff. So that's what this video is. So Son of a Mewtwo says yen is Japanese PK. The what is, how do you say it? Y-U-A-N. Is it the yen? No, yen is Japanese. Won? It's the won? Oh, God, I don't know. This is how dumb I am. So it's not, the Japanese is the yen. So sorry. Thank you, Son of a Mewtwo. I've been saying the wrong currency the whole time. Oh, my God. That's why I just know, like, the conversion to what it is in, you know, USD opposed to, you know, the Chinese currency. Yeah, it's like crazy. So Brew City TCG said, haha, you were the guy who bought the Marnie box for $600 on eBay, ? No. If you go in the description of this video, Brew City, I link that box. That is currently, when I started this video, available for $3.99. So no, I was not the guy that spent $600 on that box when the link for the box I posted was $3.99 and was still in stock, which was funny that I did see those sales. But I do think it's funny that Brew City TCG thought I was the one that spent $600, even though my link in this video was for $400. Son of a Mewtwo said, as Cool Trainer Ryan says, that's why it's important to only collect what you're passionate about. That's good advice. Problem is, I am passionate about Pokemon, man. Pokedama says, I'm all for a Japanese product myself, but dang, can't deny the biggest population-based market won't be long-term is kind of ignorant. Outside of Taiwan, Hong Kong, China is gigantic, just like their wallets, yeah. And yeah, I mean, yeah. When you look at like some of the older, that Chinese product, those Taiwanese products, like the Hong Kong products, very similar to like those 25th anniversary boxes. Like, yeah, it's a different market. And now that we're into mainland China, it's just a different game. Brew City TCG says, you should tell people about the wrapping. It looks super suspect on Chinese collection boxes. I mean, it's definitely different than the English boxes for sure. Isaiah said, we love you, PK. Your transparency is a thing the hobby desperately needs. Yeah. You could make the argument that my transparency wasn't really there, too. Like, I was doing these plays in the background for months, and it just ate away at me, though. Tap Rock Bang said, the Lillie Box is the best modern sealed product since the EV Gym Box. In my opinion, it's the best modern sealed product since the Stamp Box promos. And the Stamp Box promos were a Japanese product. Now, you can make the argument that maybe there's a bunch of, like, good performing modern products. Celebrations UPC was a great, well-performing modern product. It depends how far back. I'm not going to go and start naming all of them, but... let's see. So Son of a Mewtwo said, I'm not into Chinese product just from a visual standpoint. That's interesting because they're the same cards as English and Japanese. So Pokedama says, invest in wise. It's a good play due to how massive China is and how hard they get into collectibles, but forcing yourself to like Chinese product can be hard for people. Yeah. I like it. I want to make that very clear. I want to go back and like be very clear with the wording I was using is I like these products and I think they're great products. That's why I'm buying them. I want to make it very clear that my concerns are how hard I'm going into these and how unknown I am about the true demand, about the true supplies. Those are the things that truly, truly concern me about this. It's not about the actual product itself of whether or not I enjoy it, whether I like it. If I didn't enjoy it and didn't think other people were going to like it, I would not be buying it on that sense. If I just thought it was an overall crappy product. The only thing I am concerned about is being potentially over leveraged into this product and not knowing the true supply or the true demand or the most dangerous, most scariest word in this hobby, which is the reprint word. So those are the things that are what bother me. It's not the actual product themselves. Like all these products I think are home run products. And I think if any of these products did come out in English and they were as exclusive, especially when it came to like the cards that were in the set, I think any of these products in English would do fantastic. But it's just we don't see these type of products. Tap Rock Bang says it's crazy people hate China so much they see Japanese cards with Chinese letters on it and they don't want it. Yeah, I mean, even those Lillie cards like in PSA 10 they're selling for greater than $1,300+ like that's an expensive card. There's a lot of like Chinese cards right now that are selling for, and Pokedama said it in one of his earlier comments. There's some really expensive cards selling for right now, and I don't know if this is like emerging market, if it's just a speculative market, or if it's just is it a market that is artificially being shilled though? Let's have this conversation. Is it a pump and dump type market? Maybe. How many videos can you think of though, besides this one where I'm like truly being transparent with you guys talking about these plays? How many of these videos exist talking about these products? For those, that Lillie collection box, we could type it into YouTube right now. Type in Lillie collection box Chinese and just see how many people, one, opened it and how many people are talking about it. I don't know the answer for it because this is not a thing I've like searched, but my guess, if I had to take a guess, is there might be 2 openings of that box. And maybe you'd be lucky if you could find 5 videos of people talking about those boxes. And I seriously doubt that the 5 people talking about those boxes, at least talking about them the way I'm talking about them, with such transparency and like thought process behind buying these things. I bet you that answer is 0. And if there are anybody talking about those boxes the same way I am, I bet you the view counts are sub 1,000 view counts. So is it being a shield product? I don't think so. I hate taking liberties, but I would go out on a limb and say that there's probably not even a lot of people like know this product truly exists right now. Or like that Marnie collection box when I told you the release date was, June 18th, and I had that date circled on my calendar waiting for it like a fiend. How many people truly had that June 18th date circled on their calendar and more or less just sat and kept watching eBay to see what these prices were going to do after the release of that product? I'm going to go on a limb and say probably not that many people. So if that's the case, like, has anybody truly been shilling this product? And am I shilling this product? And the answer is probably like yes, by bringing attention to products. Scary. This is why I didn't want to make this video, man. This is like just a future opossum bud video or rattle video in the making. And then if prices do start to go up, like now, see, when those Lillie boxes went from $2.99 to $3.99 to $4.99 to $5.99 to $6.99 to where they are today, there was nobody to point fingers at to blame all those price increases on. Now I do feel that there is at least a person you can now point to where now we have prices for these products documented in videos. That Marnie box at $3.99, that Lillie box at the time recording this video at $6.99. Now we have a place in time you can now pinpoint to exactly listen to the price PK quoted in this video, and now in 6 months from now, when people go and they look at those prices, and in my opinion, this is all my opinion, they're exponentially higher from this. Somebody's going to go back and look at this video and go, this is the moment that the market started to do buyouts for this. People started doing this. People started doing all the speculative plays, and they're all going to say, like, this was PK shilling this market. And if you listen to the beginning of this video, PK made it very clear to everybody that he had already acquired his position in all this product for much lower prices than they're currently selling at today. And then, and only then after he had acquired his positions, did he start making these videos and talking about these, because PK is purposely trying to affect the price of these markets and shill these products because that's where his position lies. And you know what? That's going to be a really, really hard video for me to like respond to against in 6 months, because while I do feel that the overall tone could be potentially taken out of context, the overall message of that video will be exactly that. And that is why I was so afraid of making this video. And that is why for the last couple months this video has been like just existing like a stormy cloud over my head because of what this could imply. But scary to think about. Son of a Mewtwo said, PK, you're also going to have to consider not everyone is going to want to buy Chinese product. What's the market beyond China, Chinese mainland, maybe a few other Northeast Asian countries? These are all great points, Son of a Mewtwo. And I don't have like good responses to this. Like, I personally think that it's going to be an emerging market, but there was also a lot of videos out there where people talked very similar to the way I'm talking about the potential of these Chinese market and the future and the growth I see. people were talking the same way about Korean product. And this is the difference, though. I do believe that when people were looking at a lot of the Korean products, the reason people were talking about Korean products was because by that point, English product had gone up so much in value. Japanese product became harder and harder to obtain to the point where it became more or less unattainable at that MSRP price. And then people started to look at markets where values of product were still like artificially low or hadn't been pumped up. The only difference is what I'm talking about, like Korean boxes, people were talking about them because they were super cheap. The products I am talking about on this video are not cheap. They are not MSRP. They are not like slept on. They are all exponentially higher than that original release price. So I don't know if it's a completely fair, even one-to-one. So Tap Rock Bang said, name an English sealed product that looks better than the Lillie Box. Look is subjective. Better products inside. You would have to like pull a bunch of different products and like scrape a bunch of different products. Like the best playmat in any modern collection box is, in my opinion, very simple. It's a Dragon Majesty playmat. Love that playmat. So you pull the Dragon Majesty playmat out of the Super Premium Collection box for Dragon Majesty. You take the Shining Rayquaza out of the Hidden Fates Ultra Premium Collection. You put that in there. Then you throw the Metal Charizard and the Metal Pikachu from the UPC promo. You throw that into a box. Then you pull out, I don't even know where you're going to get good deck boxes from. What's a product that has really good deck boxes in it? I don't know. But you got to like do more or less like a hodgepodge of different English products in order to like get the quality of some of these Chinese products, which again, it's crazy. But this is a thing too, is a lot of these promos like, or a lot of these cards, you still can get them in other languages too. So Pokedama said, Flippers Flippin' describes the outside of mainland demand, but the quality of boxes and items is generally better than Japanese and English. It's wild, and I hate that I'm saying that. Yeah. English is constantly shafted all the time, especially when it comes to these really, truly great, like, collection boxes. Whether it's the Chinese product or, I've already mentioned it earlier in this video in a lot of different lives, like those Poncho Pikachus and stuff like this. Like, those Poncho Pikachu boxes, super beautiful. Or even, like even the Kanazawa boxes. There were so many different, like, good Japanese promos that came in good collection boxes that English was always robbed of. And that has always kind of rubbed me. And especially because English has moved into, like, this sealed product route. And yeah, sure, like, the Charizard UPC is a nice product. Like, it displays nicely. You have the Sword and Shield on both sides, and you have that nice Charizard artwork. But how great is this Charizard artwork compared to like a lot of these Japanese collection boxes? And you look at a guy like, even shout out to Twice Big Jake. Twice Big Jake, if you're out there watching this video, you're more than welcome to come on this channel for an interview anytime you want, buddy. Just all you got to do, just let me slide into your DMs and respond. But yeah, you look at Twice Big Jake's background. His background is full of like awesome Japanese collection boxes, and the reason why his background's so beautiful is because of that artwork of all those collection boxes, and it's just something English never gets. And as we move more and more into the sealed product route, like, I really hope we get more and more of these beautiful sealed products. And like, we struggle with sealed products. Like, we get happy when we, and this is like a sad thing to say, but like when we get special like collection boxes meaning like the window collection boxes, like the Eevee or Vaporeon or Jolteon premium collection boxes, and like those were kind of nice looking, but like compared to any of these like Japanese product or even those Chinese 25th anniversary products, right there you got the Charizard, you got the Blastoise, or you got the Charizard on top, the Umbreon in the middle, and the Blastoise on the bottom, and then there's still the Gardevoir one, there's the Venusaur one, the Rayquaza one. I think that's it. I think there's only 6 of them. But yeah. And those are right there. Yeah, so English market is lazy. Japanese market cures, but it's flooded currently. And mainland China finally getting involved, which is scary for all market, including their own. And especially it's scary, too, because right now mainland China is from what the way I understand this, and I should always say this, I only know this very secondhand information type, but it does appear that the Chinese mainland product is being printed in Japan. And because it's being printed in Japan, it is taking from these Japanese printer allocations, and it's really something that could probably going to get changed in the future. I'm sure eventually like that printing will be moved to mainland China, because there's no way that Japan could keep up with what the demand is for the Japanese product. Especially the Japanese market is a little more like shook out, right? Like we understand where the demand is. That demand is obviously very strong in Japan, but also Japan's having to funnel this product not just through North America, but Europe and stuff like this, because there's so many outside factors trying to pull that supply out of Japan, that we're even seeing even more like crunches for them. Because you think about Japan, if you're a LGS or somebody that has a decent allocation, do you want to just sell it to somebody walking in off the street, or do you want to get that ultimate 2, sometimes 3x premium right at release to just ship it overseas, ship it right to North America, and then, just let whoever you're shipping all that product to deal with it, and then you just get these huge margins that maybe you can't get in Japan. So so Tap Rock Bang says English Shield products have been the laziest display pieces since Sword and Shield dropped. Yeah, it is a lazy display. I'll give you that much. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, yeah, I was definitely saying the Chinese yen, and that is definitely the Japanese yen. So the yuan is what I should be saying. I'm sorry for that. That was definitely a mistake. Tap Rock Bang says, we collect Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards are art, and you laugh at box arts, question mark. I'm not laughing at box arts. Son of a Mewtwo said, PK, invest in untested markets, always a risk. I hope it works out for you. But as you said, speak softly, but carry a big stick. The Chinese market is a temporary money grab, maybe. And so I always try to like weigh my cost benefit analysis, and Marnie boxes, no, my entry point is current market price is $3.99. Now for the Lillie boxes, my entry points are drastically lower than where we are sitting today. Will there be enough pullback and enough supply and enough oversupply to pull back prices to where my entry points were? And then worst case scenarios, I break even. And then how much more supply has to hit the market? How much less demand has to, trickle through until eventually I start to lose money on these products? My price point from the MSRP, which is 157, or for the yuan, 1,111 yuan. Am I saying it right? I need to figure out how to say the right Chinese currency. But, that MSRP is 157. Like, my price that I bought these at isn't that, it's a 2x of 157. But, so yeah, maybe I'm double that MSRP price. But worst case scenario, I'll be down 50% in value on my purchase price and be at MSRP. Is that worth it for me? It's not a good feeling to be down 50%, but I do like the thought of that. Like that could potentially be my worst case scenario. But then, like Son of a Mewtwo saying, there is a scenario in which prices for that product do pull below that original MSRP. I just don't find that likely. But again, I don't understand that market enough. So just because I'm saying stuff and I'm doing stuff doesn't mean that you should just blindly do it without doing your own research. And I'm going to tell you right now, the information available and the research that is required, I've tried to spend a lot of time. I've tried to I've messaged a few people. One of the persons I message, literally lives in China, and he deals with this product. And I've been trying to get information from him, and it's he says a lot of different things. His answers haven't been really concise, but it does seem like demand is super strong there. So, but yeah, the information is just not really there. Let's see. Son of a Mewtwo says, PK, you seem sad, man. I'm not sad. I guess I'm sad. I'm sad Yeah, maybe I'm sad. I'm sad that I don't understand it, and it's so far out of my comfort zone. So maybe I am a little sad. Am I? When you think about buying product, you would think like you would be sad losing money. You wouldn't be sad making money. It's a very weird comment. Son of a Mewtwo said that PK, you seem sad. Weird making money makes you sad in this market, but it's interesting. Mason Berry said they are literally printing Sun and Moon 2 now as fast as possible in Chinese. They aren't looking back. And that's what I'm speculating on, Mason. It's a huge speculative play. Huge. Could be great, could be detrimental to everything I have. Like, I don't know what a reprint of these boxes do. I don't. I just think they're moving fast. Kind of like what Mason Berry is saying, and like that is why I am speculating too hard. Let's see. Aaron Scott said, "I've been taking a step back from the hobby and haven't bought anything from this new generation sets. Not fan of them and worth 157 meh. Hope my mind changes with the set, but doubtful." Yeah. Yeah. Namp90 says vulnerable PK is good for us to see. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how all this plays out. Like, could be if it plays out the way I think it's going to play out, is that I'll talk about this play 5 years from now. That's the way I look at it. Is I say, do I think plays will age well, or do I think plays will age poorly? You know, like think if somebody went really hard into Mario and Luigi Pikachu boxes in 2016. Imagine if they made this video and they said, I am super over leveraged on this product. I'm seeing what Mario and Luigi Pikachu boxes are doing. It's absolutely crazy. And then just every year prices start to go up. We didn't see these sort of price increases on such a short timeline, though. That's the thing, too. Like, everything comes with... But, you know, I went really hard into the stamp box promos. One of the best things I ever did. I regret not talking about them a little bit more than I did. I talked about them a little bit. There's definitely videos in which I talked about those products, but not as maybe strong as I should have, because I wasn't sure how they were going to perform, how they were going to age in the future. Those ended up aging fantastically. So it ended up being a great play and actually like catapulted me into a ability to have like a lot more freedom in this hobby. Like that's what those boxes provided me. And even now though, I look at what prices of a lot of those promos are selling at today versus the prices I sold some of those promos at, and it's like, man, I could have held on to a lot of these promos. Only problem is I became so illiquid because of those stamp box promos, because I bought so many of them that I had no option but to sell a lot of those. But I didn't lose money on a single one of them. And if I held on to all those, and it's just, but it's that constant conversation, right? That constant, what if? What if I never sold a single one? What if I only just sat on them? Like, and you look at what the prices of those Pikachus and the prices of the Cramorants are selling at today, and it's like, man, should have held on to them for a year more. Like, look at how much those things have gone up in a year's timeline. And but you can't always look at the what ifs. Like, if you're always looking at the what ifs, it'll just like destroy you. But I always just try to live in the now. And what do I think is the best place for me today? And right now, I think my best place is these Chinese products. And this might age absolutely terrible. And, you know, Namp said it looks good to have PK be vulnerable, because if you think about it, I'm making it very clear to everybody. Like, I am definitely over leveraging like Lillie collection boxes and stuff like this. Like, this is the definition of being as vulnerable as you can get in the hobby, because I'm putting this play out there. So if it does age absolutely poorly and like straight up trash and garbage, people will very easily be able to look back on this live for a long time and say, this was the moment that the hobby finally broke PK's wallet, you know? So it's a vulnerability thing. Like, when people go so heavily into something, they very, very rarely like make that apparent to people. And just because I've been very lucky in the short term doesn't mean I'm going to continue to be lucky in the long term. Or like it doesn't even mean that the liquidity of these products are going to be there in the future. Like there is liquidity now, but there might not be liquidity in the future, especially if prices continue like this upwards trend. You know, even like some of your best performing collection boxes, like there's liquidity for a lot of these, but sometimes it does take that right buyer when, you know, that Lillie collection box is getting closer to 1,000 opposed to further away from 1,000, meaning it's getting closer to hitting that $1,000 mark opposed to not hitting that $1,000 mark. Assuming that Lillie collection box gets to $1,000, when you start to get to $1,000 price points for product, your buyer pool dries up quick. It's just like a lot of these booster boxes. There are a lot of like imaginary dollar amounts for these booster boxes where you can very clearly see demand drop from, you know, the liquidity aspect of a lot of these products. Evolving Skies is a good example. You know, Evolving Skies, like once they started to float between that 4 to 500, you really saw like a stagnation in the price increase of that product. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still price growing in that, but it's definitely had like this stagnation, and that $500 mark is usually like a pretty strong like barrier for a lot of products. And you can go back to super recent products that just recently hit that 500. You know, team up booster boxes, that 500 was a strong resistance point for a little bit of time. Cosmic Eclipse, that the $500 price point was a very strong resistant point for that. And then, you know, once you start to you get past that 500, and it could sometimes take months to a year's time in order to break through that. You know, especially for Cosmic Eclipse, it took months for Cosmic Eclipse to break through that $500 mark. Once it finally broke through that $500 mark and it started to like creep up, eventually it's going to hit that other resistance point, which is 1,000, until eventually, you know, there's a lot of different price resistance points in this hobby, and $1,000 I think is a huge mental barrier for a lot of people to get over, to spend $1,000 on a single product. So let's see. Wade G says, this is like a Rudy scheme. Everyone is selling to the next flipper until there's no flippers left. Yeah, that's the greater fool theory. What Wade is talking about is a greater fool theory. Me personally, I would play the game, but I hate going into a market above retail. Yeah. But yeah, what Wade's talking about, that's a greater fool theory. What the greater fool theory states is there will always be a buyer. So because there's always a buyer, that price will continue to go up. So you're always selling that box to the greater fool. Problem is I do believe in these things. It's not a question of do I believe in them. The question is, I just don't know the markets. I don't know the true supply. That scares me. To go so heavy into something that I don't have a real true finger of the market or a true pulse of the market. Like if you don't have your finger on the pulse of the market and you do not know what it truly is, that is a scary, scary thought. So that's what is really like, yeah. Let's see. So Kaz Matt Ron says, I gave myself a rule, an unbreakable rule. Never buy over MSRP. If I miss out, tough. You missed out. On to the next. That's a good rule. The problem is with this is I never got my chance at MSRP on these ever. So Pokedama says, I used to buy gym boxes for $5.50 a pop back when EV Heroes boxes were $200 and Espeon boxes $150 raw. The contents make the value. Let's see. So Pokedama says, I can disagree with you without completely denying your perspective. Art does, I think he's talking to somebody in the chat. He says, art does matter and has some value, but not the primary factor for box prices. It's the contents that drives it. Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. You know, it's just when Pokemon sometimes does it right, you know, it's the contents plus artwork. Like when you have both of them, it's slam dunk products. And we throw around scary terms. One of the scariest terms that a lot of people use in this hobby, and I have made the mistake of saying it in the past, and I always try to catch myself from saying it, is a lot of times we'll use the phrase no brainer. No brainer is a very dangerous term. That is a term that people use way too lightly. And it's just the problem is sometimes things feel like no brainers, but it's a term I try never to use because it's just dangerous. But when you have a product that has beautiful artwork in it and great like products in that, not just like the cards but also the products, it always feels like a no-brainer. But it's a scary phrase, and it's one we throw around way too often. Uh, uh, So, Son of a Mewtwo said, I respectfully disagree, but understand where you're coming from, PK. I just can't see Pokemon losing popularity. Think about it. The Wizard of the Coast generation of kids just hit in the late 20s, early 30s can afford cards. So, I wonder what exactly I said that he thinks that. I don't believe Pokemon is going to, like, fall off a cliff and lose absolute demand or popularity. If I did honestly believe, if so, I guess the question is, what do I believe versus what am I worried about? What I'm worried about is not necessarily what I believe. What I believe is in Pokemon. Pokemon being here to stay, cross generational, huge supply, people coming into income earning years. If there's a great live that exists, if you go on Jake's live or Jake Pokenomics channel, there's a great live. You can go look at all his lives. It's one of the most viewed lives he has. But it's me, Jake, and Joe Echo Base Collectibles. And that live was probably, God, it had to have been close to 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point. It was a long time ago. But during that live with Jake and Joe, I made my thoughts very clear in that video. And what I talked about in that video with Jake and Joe is I talked about, like, the fact that Pokemon is now cross-generational. Pokemon is going to be here to stay. And during that live with Joe and Jake, I talked about how, like, a lot of people, you start off in your, high school years and you're just really establishing yourself. You're just getting ready for college until you work your way through college, until you get your initial entry level job, and then you have to work your way up through that corporate ladder. And, at your very early time in your career, you're going to have a lot of bills, you're going to have a lot of debt, until eventually you're going to start to shed those bills, shed those debts. You're going to start to build equity, whether it's buying a house and all this stuff, till eventually when you hit that 30 to 40, hopefully 30 to 40 should be the most rapid, fastest like increase in your career, and your money is going to exponentially increase, and your titles and all this, and potentially people are moving around job to job in order to like chase that dollar in a way. So between 30 and 40, you're going to see your income hopefully explode on you. And when that happens, eventually people are going to have assuming you don't have that lifestyle creep up too much and it starts to like nickel and dime you that way. But eventually people are going to run into this timeline where all their college loans are paid off, their house is hopefully paid off or getting close to it, or whatever you bought your house at, that mortgage price was something you could afford at an earlier time in your career. So now later into your career, your mortgage payment might be the same, but your income is now exponentially higher than that. So now you have way more available cash. And if you have more available cash, you'll have more available fund money. That available fund money will potentially go into a hobby. That hobby could be Pokemon. So if you have that huge generation coming into your income earning years, that will be huge. And also during that live with Jake and Joe, I talked about Pokemon as how there was a time where Pokemon was something that maybe you couldn't be super proud of, meaning people more or less were closet collectors. They didn't want to talk about what they were doing because it wasn't socially acceptable. But now Pokemon is definitely way more socially acceptable. It is still emerging where it's not 100% socially acceptable, but it's definitely moving towards that more socially acceptable aspect. And a good thing and a bad thing is one of those things that the reason why it becomes more socially acceptable is because the dollar amounts that are being in this hobby. When people hear huge dollar amounts, it in a way like gives this hobby more validity. And maybe a lot of people don't like to hear that, but when you hear about like the big flashy sales of Illustrator Pikachu selling for $5 million, or first edition booster boxes selling for $250,000, when you hear those big like titles, people start to go, let me look at Pokemon again a little bit differently. I didn't know these cards were worth this much money. And when people start to get that feeling and that opinion that maybe Pokemon isn't this kid game that I just always thought. Look at the value people are equating to a lot of this stuff. It does help with it becoming more established, and again, helping with people be less worried about talking about their love of Pokemon or the fact that they're collectors or investors or whatever you want to call yourself on whatever day. But yeah, if you haven't watched that live, go back and watch it. It was about 18 months ago, and throughout that whole live, I pretty much like talked about all those things I just mentioned. So Castmon Ron said, it's hard to forget when we're constantly being reminded on social media that we love Pokemon. It literally took him 15 years to get back into the hobby because of YouTube. Well, Matt Ron, it's good to see you back in the hobby, man. 15 years is nothing, man. What's 15 years compared to the rest of your life, you know? And when I talk about, like, people don't have to be bashful or embarrassed about collecting Pokemon, you know, right now I'm in my mid-30s. I started this channel a couple years ago. I feel older now than when I first started my channel, but hopefully I'm still making these videos in 5 years and 10 years until eventually I'll get to the age of where Gary King Pokemon is to today, you know? When people talk to Gary and they look at his collection and look at what he's done in the hobby, like, nobody really, like, questions Gary's age. It's just Gary was doing stuff that other people weren't doing. But eventually, like, this entire generation of 30 to 40-year-olds that are currently active, engaged in Pokemon, in another 20 years, we will all be at that Gary King Pokemon in our 60s. And I do believe that there will be a lot of people around. And if the hobby is that strong and the people that are collecting now continue into their 60s, just like I said, between 30 and 40, your income earning years are going to increase the highest. When you get closest to retirement, you're probably going to be in the best financial position that you've ever been in. And I hope that for everybody, meaning I hope that when you guys are 60, you are in a way better financial situation than you are when you're 35. Because if you're in a worse position when you're 60 than when you were 35, like, you probably did something wrong along the lines. But hopefully, like, when everybody gets older, they have even more money, which means this hobby could even open up that much more. But when you start to get into these huge timelines, like, there is always that danger, like, to be so optimistic about Pokemon can be a scary, dangerous thing. I want to jump to the... Oh my god, there's a lot of questions. I want to jump to the bottom real quick. Son of a Mewtwo sent a super chat. Son of a Mewtwo, man. I appreciate your questions or comments you've been posting, and I feel like it is a good conversation. And it is good to have somebody in this chat, Son of a Mewtwo, who is not, like, overly engaged in the Chinese market. And I would be interested in that. And maybe you could answer this question down below, Son of a Mewtwo. Do you ever foresee yourself being able to enter into the Chinese market, or is it something you just could never see happening? And if you could, what would it take? Or is it just your English collector or Japanese, or you just never see that as being a market that could ever, like, truly cement itself as being a true market? And, you know, that you could say maybe in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like, give it time, like, because I've always talked about this in this hobby. There's one person that is undefeated. That is Father Time. So in 5-10 years from now, if you can look back and say, okay, this Chinese market is a truly established market in 5 to 10 years, then could you see yourself hopping into it? Or is it just a question of, no, that's just never will be for you? Because even like the Japanese market, there's a lot of people. I dabble in the Japanese market, but I'm not super into it. And I could say that for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who dabble in the Japanese market or just stay away from it 100%. And the Japanese Pokemon market is as an established of a market as you can possibly get. In fact, not only is it established, it predates the English market by a drastic amount. So, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Son of a Merc says, all these legends that have come through on this podcast, PK deserves way more subs. Yeah, man. If you guys are watching this and you're not subscribed, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. But yeah, I've been very blessed to some of the people that have been on this channel. And I mean, yeah, just excluding even like the podcast and all the people that have been on the podcast, like all the one-on-one interviews I've had have just, there's so many one-on-one interviews. And there are very few people that are in this hobby that like I I still like need to have on to check that box. Like there was a lot of people that I always looked up to in this hobby, like people that I really, really want to get on. And like the number one on my list, and I've said this from day one, was always Rusty TCA Gaming, was always like the number one person I always want to get on my channel. And when Rusty came on, like that was a huge, like I call it like a huge milestone for my channel. That was when I was like, okay, I felt I made it when I was able to have that one-on-one conversation with Rusty. And that was a conversation I like took PTO from work that day in order to do a 10:30 live, just to like be able to have him on and just talk, because Rusty, works during the day, but 10:30 a.m. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take PTO. This is what I was waiting for. So he was a big one, and then to have like Scott Pratt come trickling in, whether he knew he was live or not, it was still cool to have Scott Pratt on, and to have PokeRev on was, PokeRev's been on this channel how many times? Like 5? It's got to be like 5 or 6 times. PokeRev's been on this channel a lot, and like he was a big one. And then it always goes back to the beginning of the podcast too, is when I had Rattle on and when I had Ryan on, those two back-to-back interviews, like that was big. And then so I had Ryan and Rattle on back-to-back for a podcast, and then after I had both them on, like I reached out to them. I was like, you guys want to come on together and just, have a conversation? I think it would be like a good difference in people, like everybody's got their own personality, but I did think that they would mix well in order to like make good content. And they both agreed, and they both came on. And that first podcast, or it wasn't even the podcast at the time, it was just a conversation. And Rev came on, and then it ended up being the four of us at the end. So it was me, Ryan, Rattle, and Rev. And I felt it like right after that conversation. I was like, I need to make this repeatable. This was special. I always thought it was, that the podcast was so special. And I was like, I need to repeat this. So I reached out to Ryan, I reached out to Rattle, and I said, you guys, would you want to make this like a reoccurring thing, like a monthly thing? And when I did it, I was nervous to ask that question, because I was like, I think Ryan's going to say no. I think Rattle's going to say no. And they both said yes. And then through that podcast, like, there's some magical moments that happened. Like, straight up magical moments. And the word magical gets thrown around, but there are memories that I have from those podcasts that will stay with me my entire collecting career and my entire life, just in general. Like, there are memories and moments from the podcast that I look back on with just, in a way, awe. And sometimes there were certain moments on the podcast where I said, I can't believe I was even involved in these. And then to remove the fact that I was even involved in those, then to add to the fact that these moments happen on my channel and they happen live. And sometimes, when the podcast first started, there was like 100 people in the live chat. And from like right now, I got 124 views. Like when this channel was new, that was very rare. So the podcast started with like 100 people until eventually one of the podcast episodes, there was greater than 600 people tuned in real time. I'm a channel with like a little over 6,000 subscribers, and I had 600 people tuned in real time for a live. I'm like, wow, this is special. And like, I just think back on all the people that were part of that, and it was just, yeah, that was, I've had, so yeah, to talk about Son of a Mercs Common, I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but yeah, like, some of the people that have came through on these different lives, it's a lot. And a lot of reoccurring guests too, and a lot of memories were made. And I do try my best to listen to a lot of like different people's YouTube videos, and I'll hear people quote stuff or mention stuff that information was released during the podcast. So I always laugh when I hear like some of the information that was released, other people will recite it, and then that's how information is distributed in this hobby. You hear it from one person who tells another person, who tells another person, till eventually like that information, the original source of that information gets lost to time, but that information is now out there. And I always thought like the podcast or the conversations I've had on this channel have helped with that because it allowed that information to be released. Whether it's something as simple as like some of these uncut sheets or how some of this stuff was released, or some of the, like when Rusty was on, Rusty talks about like getting the 4 position only cards, and how was Rusty the very first person to identify those cards on like a random eBay listing, to the fact that he reached out to the seller, found out that that seller worked at Wizard of the Coast, and all these things. And like the history is out there, but it's just a matter of like finding it. And one of the things that fascinates me the most about this hobby is the history. And the thing about this hobby too is a lot of this information in a way is very compartmentalized in a small group of people. Or you can go on E4 and you can scour the E4 threads and go back years and years and find all this information, a lot of this stuff. But sometimes it can be very hard to scour that information. It's another thing to just hear people tell the stories about like when this originally happened, or just when Gary King Pokemon came on the podcast. And I asked Gary, I'm like, Gary, it's people think about PSA now, with all the CGC crap that's going on. For a while, like, the reason PSA became the standard of Pokemon was because of Gary King Pokemon, because of Birdman, because of these people, because they decided that they were going to go with PSA opposed to Beckett or one of these other grading card companies. And that's why when you talk to Gary King Pokemon, Pokemon talks about his relationships with Joe Orlando. Joe Orlando was the CEO of PSA from like 1999 all the way up until, shout out to my live on Thursday, until Nat Turner took over very recently. Like, Joe Orlando was the CEO. Gary King Pokemon created that relationship. Or you talk and you listen to when Gary was trying to push PSA to start like accepting different variants of the cards. And one of the things Gary talks about is just something as common as shadowless cards. PSA originally did not like recognize shadowless cards as their own variant. And Gary originally was calling them no shadow cards. Like, that was how people in this hobby originally referred to those shadowless cards, whereas no shadow, because that was the way Gary referred to them as, until eventually PSA started to like look at these shadowless cards and give them their own variant. And like, if you want to get into the nitty gritties and the real niche stuff, and when you start to look at like the no damage Ninetales, like some of the rumors that exist is like there could potentially, like, there's definitely one PSA 10 no damage Ninetales that we definitely know about. Nick Old School Pokemon talks about it all the time. But like, one of those things that are as legend, or the things of rumors, is that there is potentially another no damage Ninetales that does exist in a PSA 10, but it's just not recognized by PSA because that PSA 10 no damage Ninetales was graded before PSA recognized shadowless and stuff like this. Or you could talk to people, and people look at the Pokemon hobby, and one of the things we look at all the time is like PSA pop reports. Never forget that PSA pop reports at one point in this hobby were paywall, meaning you had to be a PSA member to even have access to PSA pop reports. And then people like Joe Orlando, who was the CEO, like, that was one of the pushes he did to make the PSA pop report a public thing. Like, sometimes people don't even think of a pop report as ever being something that was paywall, but there was a period of time in this hobby where even things as simple as PSA pop reports were paywall. Like, the hobby has grown so drastically different, and it's cool to hear all these stories. Do these stories really help sometimes? No, but if you truly love Pokemon, if you love the history, they're important, man. Zach said, PK, did you grab any Pokerev 4.0 packs? I've actually never bought a Pokerev mystery pack, believe it or not. Let's see. Esbionic says, hey PK, finally catching a live again from the UK. Nice to see you, man. Probably late in the UK. I appreciate you tuning in so late. Let's see, we got Chevals in the chat. All right. Man, it's hard. I'm like so far back. I do want to see if Son of a Mewtwo responded. He said, I scrolled down to where the super chat was, but Son of a Mewtwo said, I'd wait till the market is proven. Exactly. Right now it's too early, too risky for him to hop in. I'd rather do Japanese and Chinese right now for namesakes. That said, I do believe waifus will always sell. So yeah, that's interesting. So Son of Mewtwo said it right there that he's wait till the market is proven. So if the market ever does prove itself, that means you're not like totally against the thought of jumping in. So that's cool, man. But yeah. All right. I jumped to the bottom. All right. I got to the bottom again. This Thursday, there's going to be a live before this Thursday, but this Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will have Nat Turner, the CEO of PSA, on. That's going to be a fun one. I think we're going to be able to ask him some good questions, get some of the answers that only he could answer. So, yeah, guys, as always, I appreciate every single one of you. I know this ended up being a way longer live than I was expecting. We're reaching like the hour and 36-minute mark, which is absolutely crazy. If you guys were here from the beginning to the end, I appreciate every single one of you guys. I don't really ask you for anything. The only thing I ever ask for is if you could hit that like button. If you could hit that like button, it does me a solid. And if you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. I do a lot of these lives, and I do have a lot of awesome guests that are coming in and out all the time. But yeah, as always, guys, I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next video.